My girlfriend of 2 years cheated, and I didn't find out till she was engaged 3 months later, but I got the last laugh. Part 2. It was an uphill struggle for the following month. At night, I would feel sad. I realized she made me reliant on her. I'd become used to her nightly phone calls. I felt very alone. There were many evenings when I cried myself to sleep on the floor of my room. But I immersed myself in my career, school, and friends. But then, about a month later, I received a call early in the morning from her. I responded as if it were an emergency. It wasn't the case. She seemed to have butt DL'd me, but that did make sense. We hadn't spoken in over a month. What were the odds of her phoning me accidentally? I could hear bits and pieces of a dialogue. I could hear her voice, but also another voice that I didn't know. It was unmistakably a man. I heard something about snow, and I think I heard my name spoken, but the conversation abruptly terminated. I know I shouldn't have done it, but I went out to a few pals and learned she had begun dating someone. I then reached out to her, which I know I shouldn't have done, and asked if she was okay. It took her a few days to answer. She then said that she had butt DL'd me because she wanted to talk with me. She claimed she missed my friendship, and we spoke for a few minutes as if nothing had happened. She informed me that she had begun dating someone. I told her I heard something, and she questioned where I heard it. I told her it was from friends. I'd seen a photo of the person at that point. She started talking about him and his weaknesses. I merely listened, but I started to feel strange about it. She then mentioned his hair being strange, to which I said, yeah, it is a little strange, but I think she was referring about his hair years ago, and she then questioned how I knew what his hair looked like back then. I apologized, thinking she was talking about now. She then informed me that she had just received a large number of strange friend requests on Facebook and inquired whether they were mine. They didn't. We called it a night soon after that, and I started to have a strange sensation about it. I was pleased for her, but the more I thought about it, the more disappointed I became. The more I thought about it, the more I knew I didn't want to keep talking to her. I messaged her the following day and told her that, although I miss talking to her, as we used to, I believe we should continue to avoid one another. She concurred. I immediately blocked her phone number. A week later, while on school, I discovered I had a message despite the fact that my phone had not rung. It came from her, and she asked whether I was at home. She came to drop off some items. Personally, I didn't think there was anything worth her returning, and it irritated me that she had come and dropped the items off at my front door while no one was home. I grew quite irritated. I had instructed her not to contact me again. Then I decided to send her an email. I essentially told her that I loved her with all my heart, but that she had abused me in a variety of ways, lied to me, and so on. I told her she should thank her parents for being so kind to me. We had a rather good relationship, and they actively told me how amazing of a BF I was. I then told her I didn't want any touch with her, that she had been removed from my phone's contact list. I said that even though we live about an hour apart now, we can run into one another owing to friends living nearby and whatnot. I informed her, if we meet, I will treat you the same way you treat me. I'll treat you like a friend if you treat me like a friend. If you treat me like an adversary, I will treat you as an enemy. If you treat me as if I don't exist, I'll treat you the same way. I wrote the email with the expectation of never hearing back from her. Boy, was I wrong. I got a response a few days later from her father. Her father, on the other hand, is an ex-Marine and a lawyer. In his email, he advised me to leave his daughter alone. He accused me of following her. I'm not sure how I felt about it, given that I was an hour away and preoccupied with school, job, and friends. He accused me of making phony FB profiles and cyber-stalking her, which I did not do, though I did glance at her account from a friend's account a few times. After all, who hasn't? But then he took the sentence about treating her how she treated me, and he emphasized it and said, I consider it as a threat. He then threatened me with a restraining order if I didn't leave her alone. I was really taken aback. Her father and I had always gotten along well. What I was reading was so unbelievable that I couldn't believe it. I chatted with a few individuals, and having studied law at university, I answered to him. Look, I told him, I don't want anything to do with your daughter. She was the one who made the first contact again. She did, in fact, come to my place without my knowing around a week ago. Why would she come to my place if I'm a stalker? I informed him that we both knew what he stated was false, and that no court would ever grant them a restraining order. I warned him he should never contact me again, and that I would do the same to him and his daughter. That's when I started wondering what the heck was going on. What kind of tales was she saying about me? What is her story about, and why is she telling it? When I informed several of my friends about what had transpired, they were astounded as well. They just informed me that I had escaped a nuclear blast and that I should be grateful. I expected the narrative to finish there, but as I already said, this is a cheating story, a lengthy one, but a cheating one nevertheless. So we split up in January. A buddy of mine messaged me while I was working right after the first week of April to tell me that my ex had recently gotten engaged. I was taken aback. It hadn't even been 3 months. It didn't make sense for the girl who had continually expressed how difficult her relationship had been due of her cheating, violent ex-fiancé. What was fascinating, according to my buddy, was a remark that someone had left on her announcement. This individual was congratulating her on her engagement and was overjoyed that she was able to assist them in getting together back in November. We were still going out that November. Yes, they weren't exclusive at the time, but I consider it cheating since I had offered her multiple outs and she lied about there being someone else. I was furious. Then, everything fell into place. That's why she turned distant throughout the holidays. That's who she wanted to see the film with. That stung, but I carried on with my life. I was still suffering from depression. There are trust difficulties. I told a few folks about it. Friends, churchgoers. But the more I spoke about it, the more I discovered about her. People who knew her, but didn't know where dating came out and said, yeah, that girl has difficulties. They said things to me that they maybe shouldn't have said, but whatever. When I discovered all of the negative things she said about other people, I realized she had never really cared about me. She just wanted someone to love her and then discard her when someone better came along. I understood that I fell in love with her not because of who she was, but because of who she appeared to be. She'd heard of me, thought I was a good person, and decided I was empathetic enough to fool. She basically mirrored herself back at me, and I felt I was dating someone like me when in fact I was dating a narcissist. However, this helped me learn a lot about myself, that I'm too concerned, too much love, and I need to be cautious about who I devote my affection to. I've learned my lesson. So it's been half a year. I hadn't met her, but I had heard she had returned to my city with her husband. So much for me being a stalker. My friends had a couple run-ins with her, and one of them humiliated her by making an illusion about something she had done. Love you, Danny boy, brothers for life. I was invited to a friend's wedding. I couldn't attend the ceremony, but I did attend the reception. I had just finished a brief speech mocking my buddy. He had an irritating and loud laugh. You wouldn't believe it. I was ready to sit down after finishing my comments when a mutual buddy entered the room, and who was standing just behind her. My ex-girlfriend and her spouse. I was taken aback when I saw her. Our gazes locked just as she was about to enter the room. Instead of stepping inside the room, she pushed her husband out of the way into the corridor and immediately followed. I took a step back and went to the other side of the building to gather my thoughts and emotions. I felt all right in general, but the surprise of seeing her was intriguing. When I returned to the room after a few minutes, I found that my ex and her husband had not entered. I then asked my buddy whether he had invited her, and he confirmed that he had. I told him that giving him a heads up would have been good, but he stated he hadn't even considered it. He wasn't a close buddy, more of a mutual acquaintance of one of my closest friends. Anyway, minutes passed, and the new couple was about to have their first dance, so we all shifted some seats to make room. I happened to be putting chairs away on the opposite side of a door when my ex rushed in, realized I was right next to her, and raced to the other side of the room with her husband in tow. Except for a handful of fleeting looks, we avoided each other for the remainder of the reception. But it was at that moment that I felt entire again. All those months after the breakup, I felt devastated and as if a piece of me was missing, but seeing how she responded changed everything. She seemed to be embarrassed. My power was returning to me. For the first time in my life, I felt really joyful. Despite the fact that she was married and I was not, I had gained the divorce. She was embarrassed to look at me. I have none of these issues. I had a generally clear mind. And now, more than 4 years later, I'm writing this. I'm still single, but I'm content. And Maddie, if you wind up reading this, I'm the one that finished university, while you're simply a housewife. After all that nonsense about transforming the world and whatnot, you'll just ever change filthy diapers and be a liar and a fraud. Thank you for your time.